All right, hi everybody. So we have gone over sheet music and how it functions as it pertains to being a drummer. So since we are at that stage and we've also covered how time signatures work, it's time to discuss what subdivisions are. I've mentioned them a few times and said I was going to put off explaining them until we had a bit of a better grasp of the basics. And since we're at that point now, it's time that we start talking about what subdivisions are. So subdivisions very basically are the idea that you can fit a bunch of different rhythms in the same space and have them evenly spaced out and know exactly how they're supposed to fit within the same space. So I'll show you what that means. This very first bar, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, the quarter note pulse. The bar is in 4/4, and again, as a refresher, that means that the pulse based off the bottom number is the quarter note, and the number of beats in the bar is up here, which is 4. So quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, quarter note. 4 quarter notes fulfills this bar. So they are evenly spaced out. That's what the definition of a quarter note is, so that you see, based off of the tempo, 100 beats per minute, we get 1, 2, 3, 4. But within that space, you can do a whole bunch of other stuff. It doesn't have to just be quarter notes. Because the pulse is a quarter note, that is our reference point for what the timing is, and that helps us space it out. So we can go on to eighth notes, we can go on to 16th notes, we can go on to 32nd notes, 64, so on and so forth. All right, so now I'm going to play this so that you can see what it sounds like. We've already been over what these different rhythms sound like in some context before, but now I'm just going to make it even more clear how this subdivision works. So we'll start from bar 1, and you'll hear the quarter notes. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you see, even though there gets a more complicated rhythm coming in, the pulse remains the same, and it's all subdivided based off of 4, right? All of these subdivisions in this exercise are based off of counts of 4, multiples of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now there are 8 beats in the bar, hence the word eighth notes, because we're subdividing the bar 8 ways. Now there are 16 beats. Now there are 32 beats. And they're spaced out based off of the initial placement of the quarter note. So again, listen to the rhythms go by, and I will count once more the quarter note. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. No matter how complex the rhythm gets, the pulse remains the same, and the subdivision is what colors it. So the pulse is still 4/4. We're not giving the pulse of the bar to the 16th note, for example. We could do that. We're not in this exercise. Theoretically, each of these bars could be their own pulse: 4/4, 8/8, 16/16, 32/32. It's all the same. The difference would be that the pulse is on every beat instead of the pulse being on 1, 2, 3, 4. So we use subdivisions so that we don't have to complicate things by saying every single note in this bar is a beat, but allowing us to understand how time works within the space of the bar, if that makes sense. And in practice, the way this works is that you use this subdivision to understand the rhythm or the feel of a song. So very frequently, you'll hear the hi-hat subdividing by eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The subdivision helps not only you, the drummer, but it helps the rest of the band who are frequently playing rhythmic expressions that go beyond just the bass 1, 2, 3, 4. It helps them know where the placement of the beat is. Say that their rhythm is on every other eighth note. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. What makes that a lot easier to understand is if you are helping them by saying 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and on the hi-hat. So subdivisions are an extremely important part of drumming. In this exercise, I'm only going to go over subdividing bars in fours. So I've already gone over what that means. And I am going to go to some exercises in a moment. Next time, I'm going to go over it in threes. And you'll see how that changes the feeling of the bar. When you're getting started, probably best to just stick to fours at first. It's the most basic, and it's also the most common. So I'm going to hop over and show you some exercises real quick. I want to keep this video short and give you something to practice on. So I'm going to show you the exercises that I'm putting out for you to work with so that you can hear how they're supposed to sound before you get a chance to work on them, and then we'll be done. So I have designed all of these grooves here with the idea of understanding subdivisions in mind. So some of these are grooves that you will hear a lot, and some of them are just really practice that are meant to help you understand and really cement this idea more than they are for you to be able to put them into practice. So I'm going to start off by just playing this. I want you to note right off the outset the way these are grouped. Notice the repeat. Each of these is a phrase, and it repeats to give you the chance to practice it once more. Phrase, repeat, phrase, repeat, phrase, repeat. So starting from the top, it's just quarter notes. Now eighth note, subdividing on the hi-hat. Remember how I said that that is an important part of being a drummer, being able to subdivide. And now we're subdividing with the hi-hat and the bass drum, and now just the bass. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're subdividing with the snare drum. And now we're subdividing with the snare and bass. And now everything. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. So you see, it pretty rapidly gets complex, right? Starting off with just the quarter note pulse and going into what would more frequently be used as a fill. But I have applied it as a groove here, just so you get an idea what that might sound like. So, the quarter note pulse, no subdivision here, it's just quarter notes. And notice that we're keeping quarter notes on the hi-hat as well as on the bass drum. And then the snare drum is what's keeping time with the 2 and 4. Then we move on. We're still doing the same thing on the bass drum. So notice all you're doing in this phrase is adding an extra hi-hat every other pulse. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and this is designed to build up. So you shouldn't just, the repeats are there for you to understand that you should go back and practice this. You shouldn't just play it twice and move on. Play it until you're getting it right consistently, until you're not getting it wrong. That's the thing that I think is most important about understanding practice. You don't practice until you get it right a few times in a row. Practice until you don't get it wrong, because that's when it's a muscle memory. And when it's a muscle memory, it'll allow you to tap into that and work off of that. Learn how to groove and work with other band members. So this one you'll probably get pretty fast. And then bring in the hi-hat to subdivide. A little bit more complicated at first, but it'll still be pretty similar and not too difficult. Then bring in the bass drum as well. So notice how this is designed so you're adding in one element at a time. That's intentional. This is how you should be learning songs anyway. You don't start at the point where you just hear this really complicated groove and you just jam it out. Simplify it, subtract, take away elements until you can play it, and then add stuff back in. So we start with just the quarter notes, then we add the eighth notes on the hi-hat, then we add the eighth notes on the bass drum, and then we take away the eighth notes on the hi-hat and just play a quarter note pulse and let the bass drum be the thing that's keeping those eighth notes. Do, 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 as opposed to the hi-hat. And you will hear that pretty frequently. Then we take away both the hi-hat and the bass drum and let the snare drum play. And notice the accents on 1, 2, 3, 4. So let us just go to this bar really quick and play this. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then after that, bring in the bass drum again. And then the bass drum and the hi-hat, keeping the pulse on 1, 2, 3, 4. You hear how that builds? That's something that you'll hear a lot in songs. As the band's vamping, to explain that term, it is essentially just the idea that you have this one phrase and you just keep playing it over and over again, maybe adding in a few things here and there just for color. Just keep on that same thing, like, and it gives this feeling of amping up, right? And that's what we're doing here with this beat. You'll hear that frequently. And it gives us this energy and this urgency. But the important part of it here is just being able to understand subdividing on each different limb. Got it? And then finally, this one is going to be hard for you at first. So don't feel bad if you can't get it. And the other thing that's challenging is this program doesn't let me do sticking. I'm working on that, trying to get something to help you guys out. But you should understand that sticking is going to help you with rhythms like this. So I'll play it for you again. 1 eanda, 2 eanda. And the reason that sticking is important is because I would play this bar differently than I would play this bar. Not just because there's the added quarter notes, but my sticking would be different. Because I would be playing with my right hand, crash, and then straight down into the got it? Right, left, 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 right, left. So that is a little bit easier to play because you're essentially just playing it. You're just playing 16th notes. So if this is hard to grasp at first, just play 16th notes on the snare, right? And then just move the quarter note up to the cymbal. This one is a little bit more complicated because you have both hands playing on the beat. So that is left and right at the same time. So the way that I would play this, it sort of depends on your preference and how comfortable you feel. I would probably play this as right, right, left, right, 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 left, right, 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 left, right, or left, left, right, left. That sticking I'm articulating is on the snare drum because you have to get this beat in. So Don't feel bad if you don't get this right away. It is there for you to understand subdivisions and to help you out with learning a little bit more of a complicated groove. So what you want to do is keep playing it over and over again. I am going to put this practice sheet up on my Patreon. There will be a link in the video description, along with a wave file of this being played. So it's just going to be the MIDI drums here. I'm not going to jam it out. You should be able to read along. That will help you understand how this functions. And then once you're at that point, you want to be playing it on your own. So this exercise will be up. Next week, we'll go over triplets and other subdivisions of 3. And then after that, we can start moving into some more fun stuff. So let me know if there's any complications here, if there's any difficulty. I can put up more exercises. As always, thank you very much. Follow me on Patreon. You don't have to subscribe. Everything's free at the moment. And I'll see you guys next time.